You have no idea how deep the deception runs. You were not merely taught to be polite. You were indoctrinated to amputate your power and call it virtue. You were conditioned to romanticize your own obedience. Trained like a dog to obey disapproval. When the woman frowns, when her affection is withheld, when her gaze turns cold, you panic. You perform, you apologize, and you think you're doing what a good man should. But nature has already revealed this truth. The weak are more likely to moralize their submission as goodness. It is not virtue. It is fear, disguised as holiness, a halo worn by a trembling heart. You were not broken by cruelty. You were broken by your own hunger to be loved. You betrayed yourself for a smile. You abandoned your values for a kiss. You restructured your soul to be less threatening, less masculine, less you. And then she left anyway, or worse. She stayed and disrespected you. Why? Because you taught her that your manhood was for sale. And all it took to buy it was a withdrawal of warmth. Most men collapse under this. They call it love, but it's survival, peace bought by sacrificing their center. And when they are used, discarded, or cheated on, they still return. Not out of strength, but out of addiction. But then she meets him, the one man who doesn't break when she withdraws. The one who doesn't negotiate his standards for her affection. The one who doesn't entertain emotional theater or respond to weaponized silence. The Stoic man, the man who doesn't need her to feel real. And this terrifies her. She doesn't fear him because he's dangerous. She fears him because he's immune. He is not programmable. He is not dependent. He is not starved for her attention. He does not orbit her like a dog trained to fetch her mood. She is confronted by something ancient, a man beyond the matrix she once controlled. Nietzsche wrote, "The higher man is distinguished from the lower by his fearlessness in facing the abyss." The Stoic man has faced it. He has stared into the void of abandonment and did not beg. He has been met with silence and did not collapse. He has been unloved and did not lose his reflection in the mirror. Because he was forged by loss, not destroyed. He's walked alone and found strength. His solitude is not a prison, it is a fortress. He does not tolerate disrespect. Because he no longer tolerates the version of himself that ever did. He will not beg. He will not chase. He will not plead for the attention of someone who would use love as a leash. He is not the servant of her validation. He is the sovereign of his own soul. And that's what makes her tremble. Because most men are easily cracked. Withhold warmth, and they whimper. Raise your voice, and they shrink. Threaten to leave, and they promise to change. But this man, does nothing. He simply watches. He does not argue for his worth, he embodies it. He doesn't prove his strength with words. His silence is the proof. His presence says what others try to shout. And in that stillness, in that refusal to bow, he reclaims what most men never touch, self-respect. He knows love is not something to chase, but something to share from wholeness. And if it's not returned, he does not break, he blesses and walks away. And in that stillness, she sees the collapse of her script. The lines she rehearsed no longer land. The emotional buttons she's always used now return no signal. Because this man is no longer plugged into her machinery. He sees the game, and he does not play it. You must understand something that modern culture will never tell you. The average man is not respected, he is managed. He exists in a limbo between utility and obedience. He is useful when compliant, praised when submissive, and replaced the moment he begins to question. And yet he continues to serve. Why? Because he has been conditioned to seek affection like oxygen, to interpret validation as proof of existence. But nature warned us. He who does not have the strength to be alone will always be a slave. Most men today are slaves. And they call it love. They hand over their vision, their principles, their time, and their voice, in the hope that it buys them peace. And for a while, it seems to work. She smiles, she softens, she opens up, but it is a trap made of velvet. Because behind the affection is an unspoken contract. You must remain predictable, pleasing, pliable. The moment you assert something she doesn't like, the contract is revoked. And most men, terrified of emotional exile, quickly fall back in line. But the Stoic man is not afraid of exile. Because he's already been there. And discovered that it is better to be alone in truth than adored in self-betrayal. He will not shrink for her comfort. He will not lie for her praise. He will not dilute himself just to be allowed close. He's not trying to be accepted. He's trying to remain intact. And that, more than strength, wealth, or charm, is what makes women uneasy in his presence. Because it means she has no control. She cannot dictate the tempo of the relationship with silence. She cannot summon his attention by withholding her body. She cannot bend his frame with guilt or emotional spectacle. She is, for the first time, face to face with a man who sees her clearly and remains unmoved. Nietzsche wrote, "The most perfidious way of harming a cause consists of defending it deliberately with faulty arguments." In the context of modern masculinity, the cause is your strength. And the faulty argument is this: that strength is cruelty. That boundaries are abuse. That stoicism is emotional repression. But these are lies, told to keep you dependent. Because a man who does not need to be approved of is a man who cannot be controlled. The Stoic man has dismantled these arguments within himself. He knows the truth. That peace without power is submission. That compassion without clarity is weakness. That love without respect is slow suicide. And because he knows this, he no longer participates in emotional games. He doesn't argue with irrationality. He doesn't explain his silence. He doesn't validate behavior that violates his soul. He simply withdraws quietly. Finally, and in doing so, he triggers something few women have ever felt: the panic that comes from losing access to a man who doesn't need you. Because make no mistake, most modern relationships are not built on mutual reverence. They are built on emotional leverage. And the Stoic man, through his presence alone, destroys the entire economic structure of power that so many unconsciously rely on. She is used to winning by default. But now, she must earn him, not with beauty, not with tears, not with temporary compliance, but with truth. Few can offer what he seeks. She is unused to being evaluated, accustomed to being pursued, admired upon arrival, crowned before even speaking. She expects men to fold without effort, to offer loyalty before vetting her character, to trade standards for a smile. But the Stoic man? He offers no throne. He praises only what he respects, and she feels that. It destabilizes her. Why? Because he isn't looking for someone to rescue. He seeks someone who's already rescued herself. She begins to feel, deep within, what Nietzsche meant when he wrote, "What is done out of love always takes place beyond good and evil." The Stoic man does love, but not by society's script. Not with submission or distortion. Not with the sacrifice of self. That love is dangerous, not because it wounds, but because it demands. It asks her to rise. Most men lower themselves to earn her trust. He stands firm and asks her to rise. That's why she trembles. Most crave access. He guards it. He protects his time and values, and more importantly, his emotions. Not with fear, but with reverence. His emotions are earned, not extracted. His intimacy is a privilege, not a reward. He is emotionally disciplined. That kind of masculinity? She's never met it. It doesn't beg. It doesn't impress. It doesn't perform. It simply exists, unshakable. Nietzsche once said, "You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist." That's how the Stoic man lives. He seeks truth, not approval. And because he is true, he cannot be bought, not by beauty, flattery, or false affection. He sees the truth she tries to hide, control disguised as vulnerability, chaos cloaked as passion, tests masked as care, and he refuses, not with anger but entirely. He doesn't engage, he doesn't reward it, he doesn't bend, he protects his nervous system, his sanctuary. That's the difference. While others seek her approval, he is loyal to his mission. She realizes, without words, she is not his center. His purpose is, and if she can't align with it, she will be left behind, not in drama, but with quiet precision. That is the earthquake, not rage, not dominance, but consistency. His unshakable identity, his refusal to flinch. She throws seduction, silence, emotion. Still, he does not budge, because he has already decided what kind of man he will be. No woman, no matter how beautiful or desirable, will rewrite his definition. That, Winston, is what shakes her. Not because he is cruel, but because he is complete. The most terrifying mirror a woman can face is not one made of glass. It is a man who sees her clearly and doesn't flinch. Every fantasy she was raised to believe, every social cue she learned to exploit, every move that once worked on dozens of men, dies in his presence. The manipulation fails. The performance collapses. The mask slips. And for the first time, she is confronted with an unbearable question. What do I offer a man who cannot be seduced? She expected to be worshipped for her beauty. But he's not interested in beauty unless it's matched by behavior. She expected him to chase. But he doesn't pursue what doesn't move with grace toward him. She expected to be the gravity in the relationship. But she realizes, he orbits nothing except his own truth. Enns wrote, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will often be lonely. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. That's exactly what she feels in his presence, a man who owns himself. She has no power over him. Not because he's closed, but because he's sorted. He doesn't need her to affirm who he is. His masculinity doesn't wobble in the presence of her disapproval. He can love her fully. But he will never beg to be loved back. He will never barter with his identity to win her affection. And in that posture, he becomes something most women have never truly experienced. A man who is emotionally present yet psychologically untouchable. This forces her to confront herself. Now, she must ask, can I match this man's standard without games? Can I stand in my own truth without tactics? Can I give without expecting to govern? Most can't, because most never had to. They've been surrounded by men who collapse under tension. Men who confuse affection with self-erasure. Men who offer their crown in exchange for comfort. But this man, the Stoic man, does not trade. He offers. And if his offer is not respected, he retracts it with finality. No explanation. No negotiation. No prolonged drama. He doesn't warn. He doesn't threaten. He simply vanishes, and leaves her alone with her untested self. Enns warned us that the greatest danger in life is not pain. It's comfort that numbs you to your own mediocrity. The Stoic man brings no such comfort. He brings pressure, not by shouting, but by existing at a level of emotional clarity and internal structure that exposes every falsehood around him. And she feels it. Every word unspoken becomes a challenge. Every silence becomes a mirror. She feels the quiet pressure of being in the presence of someone who does not need her to feel powerful, because he already is. She is left not just questioning him, but questioning herself. Because he did not fold. She must now choose. Evolve or exit. She's used to men lowering their standards to keep her. He raises his to see who can rise. This shakes her at the core. For the first time, she's not in control of the narrative. She cannot rely on her usual moves. She must face the man. He does not ask for her permission to stand tall. He does not flatter her fears or inflate her ego just to keep her around. This man is a reckoning. A philosophical confrontation. A walking storm of honesty that says, become who you truly are. Or leave. He doesn't make ultimatums. He doesn't set traps. He simply holds frame. And the world either aligns or breaks against it. The Stoic man doesn't change the rules, he reveals them. He reveals that most love isn't love at all. It's power disguised as affection. He shows that most relationships are not built on truth, but on unspoken threats. If you don't make me feel what I want to feel, I will withdraw. That's the real contract, one you signed in silence, with your pride as the currency. But the Stoic man burns that contract on arrival. He does not accept love that comes with a leash. He does not bow to moods or barter with respect. He has chosen something higher than affection. He has chosen himself. And that choice is what Nietzsche called the beginning of all true power. Because you cannot call yourself free if your peace can be bought with approval. You cannot call yourself strong if your standards collapse at the touch of silence. You cannot call yourself a man if you must be emotionally supervised by someone else. The Stoic man has walked through all of it. He's had women cry in front of him to gain control. He's had affection dangled like bait. He's had sex weaponized and silence rehearsed to provoke a reaction. But none of it works. Not anymore. Because he has seen through the mask. Nietzsche warned, he who fights with monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The Stoic man has done exactly that. He stared into the black hole of emotional dependence. He confronted the version of himself that once begged, that once twisted, folded, and bled for love that was never truly love. And he killed that version. Without ceremony. Without regret. He does not hate her. He has simply evolved beyond her control. And now, she sees it. This man does not flinch when she's angry. He does not panic when she's distant. He does not dance when she throws a tantrum. He simply remains. Not cold, not cruel, just centered. And that presence, that unshakable presence, is what shakes her to her core. Because it tells her, without a single word, I am not here for your chaos. I am here for truth. Match it, or I walk. She is no longer the gravity in the room. She is no longer the prize. She is no longer the puppet master pulling strings of guilt and desire. She is simply one soul standing before another. And for the first time, her tricks don't work. Now she has two choices. Rise, or retreat. Nietzsche would call this the moment of self-overcoming. The moment where she must abandon manipulation and walk through the fire of truth. To stand beside a man who no longer bends. But few do. Because truth is expensive. And most would rather keep their control than risk their identity. This is why Stoic men are feared. Not because they are cruel, but because they force transformation. Or they force departure. There is no middle ground. There is no half-true love. Not here. Not with him. Most men you meet are either trying to be accepted, or trying to be understood. They're selling something: kindness, loyalty, patience, charm, in hopes that it will buy them a seat at a table that was never set for them. But the Stoic man is not selling. He is not waiting to be chosen. He is not adjusting his value to match demand. He is the table. He does not chase. He summons. Not through arrogance, but through alignment. His life is not a resume of qualities he hopes you'll notice. It's a standard, and very few can meet it.